Dead Rising 2 is one of those titles that we feel a lot of people are looking forward to, and as time has gone on, that anticipation has continued to grow. And some of the things people are looking for, better graphics, better gameplay, etc., those are no-brainers. Those are areas, of course, we're going to put into the game. But specifically today, some of the things we're able to show off that I'm incredibly proud of is that if you just look at the character detail, if you look at the animations, if you look at the quality of the textures, all of them have improved over the original, which is nothing special necessarily for a sequel of a game to have. But on top of that, we have been able to throw in a lot more zombies. Roughly about 14 times the maximum number of zombies we were able to put in the original game, we were able to put in this. And that, of course, ties into loads of different gameplay that you can have being surrounded by many more zombies. It's going to make it just a more wild and frantic game, and we think people are really going to enjoy it. When talking about what sort of engine we used for Dead Rising 2, we in fact decided to go with not using the internal Capcom engine, which is known as the MT framework. And the reason for this is that Blue Castle Games said they wanted to make an engine that was made specifically for Dead Rising, that would allow us to put in things that Dead Rising would need to have, a large number of zombies, things like procedural cutting, things that would be specific to that game. And at first, to be honest, I was extremely nervous about allowing another company to use their own technology, their own engine, to build it from the ground up. Time-wise, wasn't going to make it schedule, etc. There's a lot of things to be afraid of, but they came out and did everything that we imagined and even more. And this engine, because it is Dead Rising specific, has helped us make a game that is improving almost in every way upon the original. When you think about it, the MT framework that Capcom uses is developed for multi-platform development. So whether it's 360 or PlayStation 3 or PC, all of these can lock in as modules into the design. And it's also something that's supposed to work with all of our games. And anytime you have an engine like that, that is something that caters to all games instead of a single specific game, it starts to dilute what you can do and makes it harder to make an engine shine based on a single game's gaming elements. Dead Rising is a very unique and actually very difficult game to both produce and design because it was initially developed out of Japan based on what we thought were Western sensibilities. And just from a merely Japanese perspective, you look at the game, not a lot of Japanese producers would want to produce it because it would not be popular in Japan in the first place. And they don't know what Western sensibilities are in the second place. So I waited and waited and waited for a producer to appear who said, I want to do Dead Rising 2, but no one did. And I got to the point where I'm like, well, I can't wait anymore. If no one else is going to do it, I'll do it. So that's why you're getting Dead Rising 2 now. And the reason why we decided to go with a Western developer is that although we made Dead Rising 1 a game that felt like it was kind of based in some Western sensibilities, I didn't feel like we went all the way. I didn't feel like we jumped all the way in and were as innovative as we could have been. And one of the things that held us back was the fact that it was totally a Japanese design team. And they're not Westerners, so however much they try to copy those sensibilities, they're not going to be able to get down to the true core of what makes a Western game tick necessarily. And so with this one, I knew what I wanted to do especially was go all out, and therefore that would require us to use a Western developer. We began looking around at a lot of different Western developers, but it's hard to find a developer that's going to be the perfect match, that's going to be able to compromise and respect your design sensibilities as well as allow you to respect theirs as well. Fortunately, we came across Blue Castle Games, and when meeting with them, the CEO said to me, you know, Dead Rising 1 is a great game, and one of the great things about it is it does feel a little Japanese. And so right then and there I realized that we could respect each other's culture and we could compromise to make the best game possible. It was going to be necessary to have someone with that sort of an open mind in order to make both cultures work together the right way. I initially had the concept, I initially had the story already floating around in my mind of what I thought a sequel to Dead Rising should be. And when we approached Blue Castle and talked over the story, they bounced some ideas off of us. We changed some of the ideas that we had in mind. And so what you're seeing right now is probably about 50% of the original story of what I thought. And again, that represents the perfect amount of compromise. That we may have an idea or a concept that we think really works, but upon listening to some of the ideas that Blue Castle Games had, that helped us take the story in different directions and make it even better, and certainly make it more accessible than what we initially had. To give you a brief overview of what the story is in the game right now. It's been several years after the Willamette incident occurred, which of course forms the basis of the story in the original game. Now, Part 2 takes place in a city known as Fortune City, which is basically like a casino town similar to Las Vegas. The main character, Chuck Green, who is a motocross champion, finds himself wrapped up in an incident that occurs at Fortune City, which also involves the spread of zombies anew in this location. And as you proceed through the game, you're going to find out what exactly is going on and how Chuck plays a role in what's going on in Fortune City. The platforms that we're currently developing on are PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and PC. Any future platforms right now are still something we're considering, not ready to announce at this point. But if the story is great, if the game is great, there's always the possibility to take it to other platforms. The name of the game is Dead Rising 2, and as much as we are working as hard as we can and as quickly as we can, a release in 2009 is probably not going to be possible. So we are working to get it out as soon as possible, but it most likely will not be out this year. That's the one thing I want listeners to take away.